The February 2019 meeting of the City of Scranton Zoning Hearing Board will now come to order. Will the secretary please take roll?
Mr. Gattens?
Here.
Mr. Marks?
Here.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Here.
Chairman Walsh?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Pennsylvania State Sunshine Law, this board shall render its decision on each case either at the end of each hearing or within 45 days of the hearing. If you are to give testimony in a case, please come to the podium, raise your right hand, and wait to be sworn in. After being sworn in, state your name and address and proceed with your testimony. Also, anyone giving testimony who does not become a party to the case may obtain a written decision from the zoning office. I have two announcements of law. If you are granted a variance or a special exception, you must wait 30 days from the date of our decision to obtain the necessary permits to start work. However, you may obtain a permit sooner by signing a waiver that any work done during that 30-day period is at your own risk. A favorable decision by this board shall expire 12 months from the date of said authorization in accordance with Section 111I of the zoning ordinance. If you fail to obtain the necessary permits or do not comply with any or all conditions of said authorization, you must seek an extension. Is there any remarks?
Jack, I have one question. I had some people approach me regarding a billboard down at the backside of the old Globe store on Penn Avenue. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of Mr. Joyce's.
Yes.
That it appeared there basically out of nowhere, and one of the things questioned was if it's a on-site billboard, if that's what they're doing, but I just wondering why that didn't have to come before the board, being in that area.
That application was considered, and it was determined to be a on-premise versus an off-premise sign. So as a result, it was not required in a CD district to go in front of the board.
So on-premise being advertised in the movie theater?
Advertising the wares of the movie theater. For example, they're advertising a particular beer that they specialize. It will change to maybe to Coca-Cola in the near future, and then possibly coming attractions and so on and so forth. It has strictly to do with the movie theater, and that particular part of the movie theater, which is the garage, is now considered one parcel. So we granted that permit on a on-premise basis.
But the question is that they asked me, and I just told them I'd get clarification. If the movie theater closed down as it is,
it's technically still open because their liquor license is still active, and they are about ready to reopen. In fact, they, within the last week, submitted plans and plans and permits to start whatever changes they want to make. I don't know when their anticipated opening date is, but it is soon, pending soon. And because the liquor license was still active and their CO was, their certificate of occupancy was still good, we decided to allow it.
very good. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Jack, the attestment and verification of postings, please.
Thank you. I'm Jack Sweeney, zoning officer for the city of Scranton, do solemnly swear that the properties listed tonight were posted with a notice of zoning hearing. The properties referenced tonight are 1117-19 Swetland Street, 2505 North Washington Avenue, the corner of Linden and Sherwood Court, the corner of West Olive and Providence Road, 1403 North Washington Avenue, 342/352 Adams Avenue, 331-333 Pittston Avenue, 345 East Locust Street, 625-627 Pittston Avenue, 618 Wheeler Avenue, 2033 Boulevard Avenue, and 931 Roland, not Boland, Roland Avenue. These properties were posted on February 4th, 2019, And I will make an announcement that the first two and the last two agenda items are continued. So if there's anybody here in the audience for those properties, that would be the Swetland Street, the 2505 North Washington Avenue, the 2033 Boulevard Avenue, and the 931 Roland Avenue. The first two and the last two on tonight's agenda are continued to next month's hearing. So if there's anybody here that was here for that, I'm afraid they're not going to go tonight. The properties, again, were posted on February 4, 2019.
And Jack, I think I heard you say, but this first case, we have continued, I think, at
This is
least
the
3
fourth-
times.
This is the fourth time.
So,
And I've informed Attorney Fitzgerald that we will go through with the hearing next month. 1 second here. Ms. Patel, one of our board members, is...
it's right there.
But yes, I have informed Attorney Fitzgerald that this would be the last time that we will do a continuance, that next month we'll go through with the hearing, and he indicated to me that he will be ready to go next month, and
Thank
if
you.
not, he will withdraw.
Okay, will you please call the first case?
The first case tonight would be the Medical Dimensions Incorporated, corner of Linden and Sherwood Court.
Are you an attorney, or?
No.
Okay, will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your name and address, please?
Jeff Jerome, civil engineer with GPI, 50 Glenmar National Boulevard, Scranton.
Thank you.
Nicole, did you get his name? Did you get his name?
We have a display. Is this okay where it's set, or? Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. As you know, the hospital has been a long-standing use in the general institutional district. The general institutional district, as it currently stands, really has no room for expansion. This project here is located in the R2 zone. Basically, it's bound by Linden Street between Sherwood Court and Colfax Ave. And it's immediately across from the existing parking garage. Just a little background, in 2005, a variance was granted to construct what you see in the light gray on the plan here, a parking lot at that location, which contains 51 parking stalls. It's gated. It's only used for employee parking. At that time, there were 3 buildings in the darker gray area, which is the area of the expansion. And 2 of those buildings were taken down as part of that original project. But at that time, the one building housed the credit union, for the hospital's credit union, or they had an affiliation with that credit union. So that was the reason that the parking lot wasn't expanded to the full extent at that time. Since then, that affiliation doesn't exist anymore. That building has been torn down. And so this project would be expansion of the parking lot to add 17 more parking stalls there. The hospital certainly, as most of us know, has a need for additional parking up there. This is probably the closest and easiest location to expand there. As you can see, basically that lot was landscaped around the perimeter. The landscaping would continue. It's a curbed parking lot. The curbing will extend around the remainder of the lot. There was a stormwater detention pipes were placed underneath the existing parking lot, which will be extended into the expansion area, so there'll be no increase in stormwater runoff. The parking lot currently is lit. This will require relocation of one of the lights and an additional light just to light the corner. They're all shielded lights. It'll be the same type of light that's in the existing lot. the total area is about 6,000 square feet of the entire area. The expansion of the parking lot is about 4,000 square feet.
I have a question.
Yes, sure.
Your entrance in is going to remain the same spot?
Exactly.
You're not
correct.
putting any additional gates into the alleyway at Sherwood Court? It's going to remain the same?
We are not, yeah, we will utilize the same entrance. Same gated, it's gated, card reader access.
Now, is this for employee parking, or
It's employee parking, yes.
is there certain hours that will be open?
Yeah, in fact, that was a condition of the original approval. It was to be utilized for daytime shift from 6 PM, or would last until 6 PM, reopen at 6 AM. So 6 AM to 6 PM.
Will the lights stay on only till that time, or do they stay on all night, or?
They do stay on, yes.
Can you show me on your diagram where the new light's going to be and the relocation of the other one?
So the new light will be on the outside of the parking lot, facing towards the
Is
lot.
that Sherwood Court that we're looking at?
Sherwood Court is up on this side, so they're shielded, so they're just pushing light towards the parking lot. We do feel that this is the minimum variance that it would require to provide some parking relief for the hospital.
And they don't charge the employees to park there, right?
I don't believe so, no. They do not.
The area between Sherwood Court and the entrance to that gate, is there on-street parking in that area already, like right now?
Yes, I believe there is.
Is that metered parking, Bob, in that area? And you're not going to remove that metered parking or look for removal of that
He's
metered
gotta be,
parking?
if he's gonna testify, he has to be
Yeah,
sworn.
I know, I'm sorry. The second question's going
I will answer that question. Yeah, there's metered parking there. It will not be affected at all by this project.
Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to give testimony on this case?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Solicitor Benatar, Zoning Officer Sweeney, Edmonds Kakiti, attorney, 425 Arthur Avenue. I have the unfortunate situation of living within the umbra of Geisinger Community Medical Center. The hospital purchased the former CMC a few years ago, understanding at the time what the limitations were in terms of the footprint in which is otherwise a very spectacular residential neighborhood, some of it which borders along Nayock Park. Lived there for, I think, 32 years, raised a couple of kids, still live there. I have been adamant about opposing virtually everything that the hospital has done because I was part of the zoning ordinance amendments back in '93. And it was at that time that we designated in this city certain zones, including institutional zones, of which Community Medical Center is on one of those institutional zones. City Council, in its lack of infinite wisdom, approved a zoning change for the former Audubon School across the street, which was for the first time then took us off of that institutional zone district and expanded into a solid residential neighborhood. That was a neighborhood school, residential homes up and down both sides of Colfax Avenue, and of course, to the east on Arthur Avenue. If you go by there now, it looks like a cesspool. There's parking there, illegal parking, I might add, every day of the week. There are dumpsters there. directly across O'Kell Court to the east from the former Audubon School is an illegal parking lot. There are at least, in my estimation, 3 illegal parking lots in that neighborhood. Now, when Geisinger acquired that property, they knew what they had. And I made this same argument to City Council when I asked them not to approve the zoning change for the Audubon footprint until at least we knew what they were going to do with it. Well, that was a few years ago. Nothing has been done. I don't know what the plans are, but in terms of the effect of that eyesore on the residential community that's there, it's just beyond words. Now, this is a variance, which, as you probably know, gentlemen, and solicitor knows for certain, if you look at section 111 of your ordinance, it tells you what you have to establish as a matter of law to get a variance. And one of the most important parts of that is an assertion supported by evidence that you cannot develop the property in conformity with the ordinance. That is, or was, 2 residential properties. If someone wanted to buy those homes, if someone wanted to renovate those homes, if someone wanted to keep those homes on the active tax rolls, that would be certainly preference to what we're talking about here. But I haven't heard any evidence from this gentleman about why he's entitled to a variance as a matter of law, because certainly you can develop those properties in conformity with the ordinance. They're not unusual in dimension, size, or anything else. So if we start allowing variances without proof, without evidence, without following your zoning ordinance, whether it's Geisinger CMC, whether it's the former Moses Taylor people, whether it's the former Mercy Hospital people, and Lord knows, you all can see for yourselves what has happened between the former Mercy and Moses Taylor. They bought all of those residential lots, properties up over the years to develop some huge campus, and from what I read and what I hear on the street, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So my latest tax bill shows that I'm going to owe the city, county, and school district about $6,500 this year. I'm not afraid or concerned about paying that amount of money, but what I am concerned about is having Scranton City Council or the Scranton Zoning Hearing Board continue to allow the erosion of one of the nicest residential neighborhoods in the city to a medical facility which knew at the time it acquired the former CMC what was there. If they didn't think it made sense to acquire the property at that time, then certainly they probably wouldn't have gone forward with the purchase. But we can't allow them to simply go ahead and come back next month, next year, ask for more parking. We had permit parking in the neighborhood. The parking garages are free for the hospital, but yet they don't advertise that the parking is free, so people don't even know that. You have people getting tickets on my block because they don't know they could park for free. We supported the garage, the second garage that the hospital built years ago, which is directly across from where this gentleman wants to add the existing lot. We supported that because, again, it took traffic off the street. But if you take a ride up Mulberry Street to Arthur Avenue any day of the week, except maybe the weekend, on 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. So, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to support the fact that they're there, they are simply not a good neighbor. And if this board grants a variance based on what it's heard tonight, then I would submit to you that you are clearly violating your own ordinance, and I'm asking you to deny the variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have a response to what this gentleman said, or?
I would just state that, based on the requirements of the ordinance, the requirements to issue a variance, that the five criteria, we feel that we generally meet those criteria. This is not a hardship. Basically the hardship is that there is no space in the institutional zone to expand as it currently exists. It does not represent or we do not feel that it represents a deterioration or a negative effect on the general neighborhood, as there's an existing parking lot there now. It's a vacant lot on the corner. You're basically expanding an existing parking lot and I think there's benefit to the community in that you don't have employees trying to find parking spaces and parking on the street if you can provide more parking for them. So I think that's positive. And in general, having a hospital, a viable hospital in the city is certainly a positive for the city as a whole. And to remain viable, hospitals have to be able to continue to grow and provide new services, or they basically don't exist anymore.
Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to give testimony on this case?
Mr. Chairman, before we call for a vote, I'm going to abstain from this vote for this case here. I'm in dealings with Geisler CMC, as I'm also on the Park and Rec Authority Board, and we're in the process of negotiating some parking situations up there as well. So I'm going to abstain from tonight's vote.
Make a motion?
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetto?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
No. Vote 3-1, you've been approved.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, Times Shamrock Outdoor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Hinton. I represent Times Shamrock Outdoor, and we were present before the board last month with request to our...
Okay, are you an attorney?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm going to need to present any evidence. I have Mr. Dietz here, who's the general manager for Times Shamrock Outdoor, digital and radio. He's here if we need him to answer any questions, and we can have him sworn in at that time, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman. So last month, we presented our case after a denial of a permit application to construct a digital billboard on the corner of Providence Road and Olive Street across from the Scranton School District property. We presented the testimony of a surveyor, John Hennemuth, who testified that, and the issue here, the denial from the zoning office, was that the application did not comply with Section 712, and that Providence Road is not recognized as an arterial road in the city road map that goes back to 1993, I believe it was. And Mr. Penatar, the solicitor, advised the board that the board had the power to find that for all intensive purposes, Providence Road is an arterial road, and that's what Mr. Hennemuth testified to. And graciously, the board granted a continuance. Mr. Palmatessa had some concerns about safety and wanted to see exactly where the board would go, the digital billboard. So we met on site with Mr. Palmatessa on January 16th, and I believe we alleviated his concerns concerning safety for any pedestrian traffic, any students walking across Providence Road. We had a good meeting, answered all of his questions, and so we're coming back before the board now, asking that the board make a decision in line with Mr. Pinatar's advice to the board, that it can find that this is, for all intents and purposes, an arterial road. And what I've done, and I've supplied it to Mr. Sweeney in the zoning office, PennDOT, which has an up-to-date roadmap of the city, has designated Providence Road as an arterial road. And I think we heard that the city's in the process of updating and modernizing their map as well. This is a very high-traffic, high-volume road. There's already digital billboards from a competitor on Providence Road. The Scranton School District across the street has many digital boards that advertise, not just for the Scranton School District, NET Credit Union and other businesses. So this is nothing new to the area, and this is a good project for the school district. It will bring in thousands of dollars per year to the school district in rent income, and part of the contract, which has already been approved by the school board, is that they get a certain amount of time on the digital boards for messages and school functions, school events. So this is a good thing for the community. It's progress. It's money to a school district that is in need of money. And so we would ask that the board reverse the finding of the zoning officer and find that it does comply with Section 712 and grant the application for Time Shamrock Outdoor. Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So it's your surveyor's opinion
Yes,
that was here. It's his opinion.
Yes.
That's an arterial roadway.
that is correct.
The city map shows this as a non-arterial roadway.
That's correct.
So at this point, until that's changed in that map, my belief is that's what we have to go by. This book was written in 1993, like you said, and I've been hearing for the last 2-3 years that they are going to update it, and I understand they got grant money, but until they do, this is the book that says, your surveyor's opinion is just his opinion. As far as I'm concerned, according to this book, it's a non-arterial roadway. And as far as the signs that you're referring to, the digital billboard, one is inside the stadium. It's not on the roadway. These other signs are not on the roadway where they're looking to put this.
There is a sign by a competitor on Providence Road as well.
Whereabouts?
It's on Providence Road, Mr. Dietz, is it?
It's farther down Providence Road, I'll
Yeah.
say down by the diner. It's not in this location right here.
But according to the city map, that's not an arterial road either, so how did the board grant that?
I wasn't on the board at that time, so I don't have an answer for you. I can't answer that question, so.
But PennDOT recognizes it's an...
Attorney, and I don't think you've introduced the PennDOT map to the board.
Sure. The green roads are the arterial roads.
Yeah, just put one of the microphones toward.
As you can see, this is a Pennsylvania Department of Transportation map. They've designated the green roads on the map as minor arterial roads. And they've designated, I think you can make it out, you have to know the city roads a little bit because they're not all on there, but you can tell which one is Providence Road as it goes up to Main Avenue right here. And if each of you want to examine it, I think you'll satisfy yourself that the PennDOT has designated this already as a minor arterial road. And like I said, there's already billboards on it from competitors. Your solicitor has advised the board that despite the city map, it's a matter of interpretation for the board to make. The city map is not the end-all and be-all here. It's for the board to make an interpretation.
I understand it, and I agree with you. So, Mr. Pinatar.
Yes.
So I'm under the assumption...
Let's clarify what
I'm under the assumption now with this testimony here from the attorney that PennDOT's maps supersede the city maps?
No. Here's what we have. We have they're asking for an interpretation of this, okay? The interpretation goes this way. The city map was drawn prior to the expansion of 7th Avenue and Providence Road, okay? The PennDOT map was drawn, and I assume the date is on there, but I believe it was after the expansion has taken place. So we're not superseding anything. We're interpreting that you have the right to interpret that the new 7th Avenue, as it presently exists, actually fits the definition of arterial road in our ordinance.
So, but we have no proof that that map was drawn after the original map from 1993 was drawn.
But again,
it's
the
the map.
interpretation that you have the power to do is you look at it yourself to determine whether it fits the definition of arterial road in our ordinance. You're not relying on either map, basically.
Right.
You're relying on your own.
But I'm just referring to the testimony we just heard and last month from the surveyors here that the PennDOT map is right.
Well, I don't think we're tied to either map.
Right, I just want to get that clarified, that it's not a case of choosing maps. I'm looking at the ordinance, because it goes beyond just that being arterial road. I'm looking at up farther, where this variance, it goes against, what's, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, the safety factor on a congested roadway, and I can read it out of 712A, and I'll skip down a little bit. Avoid the creation of additional visual distractions to motorists, especially along high-speed expressways and along busy arterial streets that involve complex turning movements, which are right there, congestion, and numerous traffic hazards. So that last three sections of that sentence is the movements, that traffic flow, which happens at that light right at Olive in Providence Road / 7th Avenue, we'll say, because I'm not sure what it's actually called there. The congestion is the students coming and going to school, where there's 1,000 kids crossing that street. And to me, the safety factor comes back into play here. We haven't eliminated the safety factor because you haven't given testimony of what you changed to the board. Mr. Palmatessa was there, but we weren't there to say, what's the change from last time? What have you changed? What has Time Shamrock done to change it?
Well, there was no vote the last time.
I understand that.
Mr.
We
Gatton.
tabled
So
it.
I think that the hearing was continued so that Mr. Palmatessa seemed to have the concerns about safety the most, that he wanted to go to the site and see it himself, exactly where the pole would go. The pole is 30 feet back from the corner. It is well into the parking lot. It's not on the corner. There's a Taco Bell right next door to it, where the hot dog place was before. This is a high-traffic area. And
Very high traffic.
But there's a traffic light there. It's a traffic light on all four corners. It's not a high-speed area. And so I thought Mr. Palmatessa's concerns over safety were alleviated when we met there. He can speak for himself. I don't mean to talk for you, Mr. Palmatessa. But we spent some time there. I think it was noticeable how far back into the parking lot the digital billboard was going to be from that corner. And that's why we continued the hearing, is we wanted Mr. Palmatessa especially, because he voiced it, to have...
Well, the concerns ran across the whole board. It wasn't just Mr. Palmatessa, and I applaud what he did to go and meet with you and everything.
Mr. Sweeney was there
I
as well.
understand that, but Mr. Sweeney doesn't have a vote on this board. But I've yet to hear testimony if you're changing. I thought the concern at that time was that the pole wasn't going to be closer to the roadway, and one of the objects of that meeting was to push the pole back. So has that taken place? Is this pole in the original spot it was supposed to be, or was that pole moved back farther in that lot?
My understanding, the pole is where it is always planned to go, but Mr. Palmatessa or the board thought it was going to be really close to that corner. It is in fact not close to that corner, and the board is 25 feet long going towards Taco Bell. So it's not going into the street or the intersection. It starts 30 feet into the parking lot and goes back towards Taco Bell.
But it is visual from the intersection. Is it visual from the kids getting out of school coming down Munchak Way?
Actually, it's not. So there's two faces to the billboard. It goes like this.
Right.
There's a pole here that supports two boards. One goes towards first base of the baseball diamond, and one goes towards the drive-through lanes of the hot dog place. So the traffic, if you're driving down Olive Street into Scranton High School and you look over your left shoulder, you're going to be you got a great angle of the board. The other people that have a great angle of the board are the people on Providence Road going along the baseball field. If they look off their right shoulder, they're going to have a good view of the board. Kids walking across the crosswalk coming out of Scranton High School, they don't have a real good view. They're looking at a pole that supports two faces.
My concern wasn't the kids seeing the board walking across that street, and I'm sure I can attest for anyone that drives down that road at 2:30, between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, they just walk. The traffic lights mean nothing. I'm more concerned about you driving your car down there and looking at the Coke advertisement or whatever's on that board at the time, and these kids just walk out in front of you. That's the congestion and safety concern that I have on this.
I mean, you were down there. I thought we talked about moving this board
Right.
closer to the baseball field, so that's where I'm not understanding.
From where the property line is actually in off the road, probably a good 15 feet, 18 feet.
I can have Mr. Dietz testify to that if you're aware of that. Sure.
When you're
Raise your
coming-
right hand,
when you're-
Mr. Dietz?
When you're coming down Providence Road from the expressway, that tree is right dead center of where that billboard's gonna be. I don't know how anybody's gonna see it from that angle. Just like he said, the only time you're really gonna see that billboard is if you're coming from the stadium back up Providence Road. There's a big tree right in front of it. But it's 30 feet off of Vine Street. Is that Vine Street there? Olive Street. It's 30 feet in from Olive Street and 15 feet from the property line, not from the curb. The property line is probably 12, 15 feet in from the curb. So it's gonna be, the center post of that is gonna be 12 and a half feet in further.
I think that was the concern, was the way it was represented the first time, it sounded like it was only 15 feet away from the street.
Right.
But in effect, when Mr. Palmatessa went down to look at it, there's 15 feet before the property line and then 15 more feet in.
See what I mean? See what the
And Mr. Dietz could probably
It's not the curb, it's the
testify to that.
The property
Well,
line is in
I
here.
mean, this testimony tonight goes beyond where that sign's going to be placed. It goes back to our decision that we have to make if this is an arterial or non-arterial road. And our decision's going to sway what happens down farther in that road going outward as far as more and more signs coming into that area.
Okay, there's two votes technically, maybe one vote, maybe two votes tonight. The first vote is the interpretation as to whether 7th Avenue / Providence Road is an arterial road. If the board decides it is, then the sign is permitted. We need not go any further. If the board decides it is not, then you have to address whether to allow a variance to put it there. So we're really looking at one or possibly two votes. You guys all with me? Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that assessment.
Okay. If you disagree,
No,
tell me.
I guess we would ask for a vote on whether it's an arterial road or not, and we would move that it is. So that would be our first request.
Unless the board wants to hear any further testimony, or has to open it up to the public to see if there's any further testimony also. Or unless, I don't know if you want to hear more from Mr. Palmatessa or not.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
My name's Terry Dietz. I'm general manager of Time Shamrock Outdoor. I live at 930 William Street, Taylor, Pennsylvania, 18517. In reference to where the board is located, we have the board currently located in the original spot, which, as we said, was 16 feet from the property line back, which is 35 feet from the road, into the side of the Providence Road side of the street. On the other side, which is the Olive Street side, we're 30 feet in and 45 feet from the road. So the board itself is actually sitting back. It takes up about 3 or 4 parking places back inside of the lot itself. And we're going to have the board up, it also goes up 15 feet, all right, so that anybody coming through there, it's not going to be at eye level, so it's not going to interfere with where your vision is going to go. And it will end up being a 25-foot high board.
Well, I don't know about your line of vision, and the only reason I say that is because I know when I travel the highways and there's billboards and some of them are sky high, I look up at them, you know, whether I should or shouldn't drive, you know what I mean? And so I think your line of vision is going to go there. As a driver, you're going to go there no matter what. And that just goes back to my safety concerns with these kids crossing the streets and the amount of traffic that's there. So basically, you'd made no changes to the original plans as far as placement of the pole?
We have not as yet. If, you know, we would see after the permit is given that when we look at the board, and we have it marked where it would be, but we don't see that it's going to impair any vision or any kind of traffic that's out there where it's located now. And when we were on site, we actually walked it off and actually pinpointed where the pole would be and how it would come back. And we do have the ability to pull the board back off the pole just a couple of feet too. So once that pole's up, we can adjust the steel once it's there.
And I appreciate the fact for the Scranton School District being in dire needs that they are. You know, I mean, it's revenue coming in, but to me, if they need it that bad, a representative should have been here to explain their case. I mean, it's nothing on you, but it's going on their property and everything. So that's all I have right now. Out to the thing? No. My concern is not as much as not as. Mr. Pinatar, we're discussing our vote. So this is here before us, if I'm not mistaken, because of a ruling from Mr. Sweeney that it was non-compliant. Am I correct on that? Okay.
Jack, you want this, Jack?
The way I understand it is, the city's map doesn't show it as either collector or arterial. On this map, it's the city map. So therefore, I'm not 100% sure why we're even here. Because it's nothing. It's not either one of these streets. And you can see it on the map. We didn't have it much recently.
I guess we're here because the city doesn't say it's an arterial street. It doesn't say it's anything.
This is approximately where the billboard is going to be placed. This is Providence Road and this is Olive Street. So when you're coming down Olive Street and you're going towards the stadium, that's this direction. This section of 7th Avenue, as you can see, is black. It's nothing. It's just a regular street. It's not arterial. It's not a collector. It's just nothing. So
It's not labeled.
it's not labeled, which means you can't call it a collector street. You can't call it. So therefore.
But is there?
Please do.
Photo of the area, and the blue star marks where the pole would go, and the lateral portion of the pole goes towards Taco Bell. if you look at that, that's really a good representation as to where the pole would go. You can see that Providence Road is 5 lanes in this area. Lackawanna Avenue, I think, is a arterial road on the old city map. There's more traffic and high volume on this road than Lackawanna Avenue. It shows you that how this got modernized and wasn't picked up on the city's map, but PennDOT has picked it up as an arterial road.
Right, but
This is a much bigger road than Lackawanna Avenue, that the city recognizes as an arterial road. And this is a good distance back from that corner where this pole would go. And it would take up some parking spaces right now that the school district is willing to give up.
Well, they're willing to give it up so they can make money. I mean, they're not giving up on the goodness of their heart. I mean, it's something, so they have a sign there and have rent coming in. I understand what you're saying, but
all I'm saying is you can't turn it down because it's a collector street. You can't turn it down because it's an arterial street, because it's neither.
is this anything we get a better judgment on from the planning department?
This is where this
Is that
came
ever-
from. This is where this map came from. Don King made this up for me.
Well, then why are we
Yeah,
here?
well, we didn't have this prior.
Right.
So, I'm just pointing this out, it's black, which means it's neither.
So-
The war arterial. And it is,
So not to waste
there is a
this
legend.
gentleman's time, or are we here now to vote on a variance, in a variance only?
The first vote is to reverse the denial of the application.
Well, I understand that, but I mean,
By my cousin Pat. And interpret that decision should be reversed, and that it is an arterial road, and therefore the application should have been granted. That's the first motion, as I understand.
That adequately describes the first motion.
And what would the second motion be?
It depends, if you interpret that
So if
7th
we- if
Avenue
we
is not
approve-
an arterial road,
Right, so if we approve his
Then-
request for the first part of it,
yeah.
they still don't even need a variance?
No, they don't need a variance.
Okay, so if we turn it down, they need a variance?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
We didn't have this before tonight. Based on last month's meeting, I got this up. And you can see there is a legend here that shows arterial in black, red and blue. Again, there are red and blue sections here, but the particular section of 7th Avenue is black, which means it's nothing.
That's what I really do. Yeah. Mr. Pinatar,
Yes.
because there's still some confusion on this and everything, so if we uphold Mr. Sweeney's ruling at that
Okay.
time, or Mr. Hinn's ruling, whoever this came out.
And actually, this is technically not really, the first vote is not really an appeal for Mr. Sweety's. They're asking the board to make an interpretation.
Okay, so if we make the interpretation that it's a non-arterial road,
If
then they
we-
come right back 10 seconds later and request the variance.
Correct.
That's
Okay?
correct.
And if we offer that variance is to that property only at this time.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Everyone, okay.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to give testimony on this?
Make a motion?
I'll second it. This is the motion to uphold the ruling
This would be the motion to decide whether 7th Avenue is an arterial road.
Which is what PennDOT's saying it is at this point.
Which is what PennDOT has it labeled at this point.
Okay.
I thought it was labeled as nothing, right, Jack? It's
No,
not.
the city has it labeled
City's
as...
map shows us.
So what we're going to vote on is clarification if the board feels it's an arterial or a non-arterial.
Correct.
So a yes would be for arterial and a no would be for non-arterial. In our vote?
Yes.
Okay. We had a motion and a second? John, do we have?
Yes.
Okay.
If you'd prefer to say arterial or non, to make it a little clearer.
Very good.
Mr. Gadgens.
Non-arterial.
Mr. Marks.
Non-arterial.
Mr. Palmetessa.
Non-arterial.
Ms. Patel.
Non-arterial.
Chairman Walsh.
Non-arterial. By a vote of 5-0, it was denied.
Okay, we would then move for...
Now, yes, you have to move for a variance.
We would then move for a variance on our application to have the sign constructed on the site.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Mr. Gadgens.
Yes to the variance.
Mr. Marks.
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa.
Yes.
Ms. Patel.
Yes.
Chairman Walsh.
Yes. Vote of 5-0, you've been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is Lori Coleman.
1403.
1403 North Washington.
So, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
It's Dawn Coleman, 106 Pine Tree Drive, Clark Summit, PA, 18411.
You may proceed.
Okay. We were here last month, and we originally are asking for a variance for this space, 1403 North Washington, to be retail. It was not zoned for that. It was zoned residential to begin with. And it was continued due to the parking plan was not in last month. When we went to get the situation with the parking plan, there is the lot around the back. The space that is owned to be used for that location is, there's only one spot back there, which we would use for, at this point, employee parking, and ask that you would still grant it, going by the fact that it would just be transient parking for the shop. It's just like the tobacco shop is right next to it. It's very in and out. There wouldn't be anybody there for long periods of time. It's going to be like a vape shop, essential oils, things like that. And I mean, I guess that would be it for for the majority of it.
So what happened to all the parking that you said you were going to have for us for this month?
As far as I was told that the lot belonged to that building. I guess the entire lot does not belong to that building. A portion of it does, that one spot, and the people that own the building off to the side, they put in for something to keep those garages and to make sure that they aren't blocked in any way. So to utilize the parking, it would come to the point where they could possibly block them from getting in and out completely out of the driveway.
I'll try to explain a little bit, because after last month's meeting, I was contacted by the people that live next door, and they basically said that the upper lot is theirs, it does not belong to the building owner, so therefore it can't be counted. And there's a garage off to the left, which they have an easement to use and enter and exit and use the driveway, which leaves basically just one spot left. Now, she was led down the road by her landlord that all that parking out rear was to be used for her, which is not the case. She was misled, basically. I did speak to the landlord, and he did admit so much to me. So she's here basically to try to make an argument that it's a transient business, and the only thing that she could get parking for basically is the street parking that's out front. There's no off-street parking out back.
At the last meeting, she testified that her retail space is approximately 400 square feet, which would technically, under our ordinance, require 2 off-street parking spots.
And there is one.
Yeah, as far as 2 for the customers, or is that 2 counting the employees?
2 counting the employees.
Yeah. So she has one, but that's it.
The only problem I have is there is no parking at all, just the one spot, as you say.
Just the one, and no, that's...
If you go over that area anytime from 5 o'clock on, between the prison as well as the bar across the street, and parking is 0 over there. And I'm concerned that hopefully you'd have a spectacular business and everything, but it's going to cause people to double park and everything there too. And my major concern is the parking, and once again, we're looking at a variance again. And I feel sometimes we keep giving variances out and we keep just opening doors for more and more problems down the road with stuff. And I'm sorry that you were led astray by your landlord, but I just have a major concern with that parking.
She actually needs 2 variances, one for the use and one for the parking.
Right.
The use one, I don't think the building can be used as a residence, but it's the parking that would be the second one.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if we approve this variance, that variance carries over to the next store and the next store?
As long as it's also a retail.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I'm thinking down the road, maybe I shouldn't be, but if we went into a small grocery store, which you see popping up and everything, that business may be more of a drive-through business, and that we're creating a problem down the road as well. So that's all I have to say at this point.
Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to give testimony on this case? You raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Walter Longcore, 106 Pine Tree Drive, Clark Summit, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
All I wanted to mention was that there have been businesses there before, and the parking was not an issue. That's all I wanted to say, to add to it.
I'm ready. I make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Gattens?
No.
Mr. Marks?
No.
Mr. Palmetessa?
No.
Mrs. Patel?
No.
Chairman Welsh?
No. A vote of 5-0, you've been denied.
Agenda item number 6, Joffrey McGregor, Lamar Advertising.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address?
Joffrey McGregor, real estate manager for Lamar Advertising. Business address is 700 James Avenue in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. I'm here this evening on behalf of Lamar in support of our application for permission to erect an electronic digital advertising sign to be located at the rear of 352 Adams Avenue in the city of Scranton. We've entered into a lease agreement with DDRC Realty, who are the owners of the property. Property in question is zoned CD, which is classified as downtown commercial. And we're here to seek the approval necessary to construct that off-premise sign, which is going to feature a single electronic changeable message sign face. I'd like to approach, give you a sample photo.
How are you, brother?
We'll share.
Oh, okay, I couldn't figure out where it is. The U, we're coming from the U.
The first sheet that I gave you is a photo rendering of the sign location. It's going to show you how it's going to look on that property. It's going to be angled to your left-hand side as you're traveling Mulberry Street from the intersection with Jefferson Avenue, heading toward Adams Avenue. And again, according to what we've submitted, it's going to be a single-face monopole sign structure, face measuring 12 feet by 24 feet in size, which is 288 square feet, which again is smaller than what is allowed under the ordinance. The sign's going to operate from a separate electrical service and is going to have a dedicated internet connection from which our messages can be uploaded to the sign from a remote location. Our practice is to have 6 separate time message slots available for use on the sign face, and each of those time slots have a duration of 8 seconds. In keeping with both state and federal law, various messages on the sign are not going to blink, flash, scroll, or contain moving images or video of any kind, which again is contrary to state and federal law. And Mulberry Street is a federal highway as well as a state highway. And as with other digital sign properties that we operate in our 14-county region in Pennsylvania and New York State, emergency messages in the public interest are often displayed on these signs. We include Amber Alert, alerts for the most wanted criminals, as we experienced about 2 years ago or so with state police murderer Eric Freen. His face was seen over and over on our signs thousands of times by thousands of people. We also make it our company practice to display images, messages of in the public interest, and on behalf of towns where our signs are located. For example, we gladly display ads for fundraising and safety-related events, township fire companies, senior citizen centers, libraries, schools, houses of worship, and numerous human service organizations. On our original application we submitted, you will see that there is a print of the sign, an actual schematic diagram showing the structural blueprint for the sign. You can see it's a center-mounted monopole sign with the corresponding LED face mounted on top in what we call a goalpost formation. There is an engineer drawing of the footer there, and all of our sites are engineered specifically, or all of these locations are engineered specifically by our engineer in conformance with our instructions. Per the application, we are seeking a variance pursuant to Section 712F1 of the zoning ordinance for approval to install the off-premise sign within the CD Downtown Commercial District. We would note that the proposed sign location is in keeping with the commercial nature of the property. That is, that the land is in a solidly commercial zoning district and located directly adjacent to a multi-lane arterial state highway, that is Mulberry Street, and that our sign is going to be in compliance with Section 712F2 with respect to our arterial street locations, and in compliance with all other sections of 712F. That includes subsections 3 through 8 of the city ordinance, meaning that the sign would comply with all other applicable sections of the ordinance pertaining to off-premise signage. Finally, we seek relief in light of the fact that over the years in the greater downtown area, due to redevelopment, condemnation, property sales, we have lost no less than 18 sign locations over the years, and this would be an opportunity to try and recoup some of the coverage that we have lost. Other than that, you have everything there in front of you, and I'd like to thank you for your consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
This sign here, according to the back of that building, is it going to sit flush with the back of the building?
No, sir.
Or is it going to be turned out?
It's going to be turned at a slight angle. If you look at the plot plan diagram on the original submission of the application, that is a rendering of where the sign would go relative to the existing building. And again, it meets all setbacks as prescribed under the ordinance for off-premise signage.
Mr. Chairman, before we go any farther, I'm going to excuse myself from this vote because I've had business dealings with Mr. McGregor and Mr. Donovan from Lamar, and I just wouldn't be comfortable at this point voting on this case.
Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to give testimony on this case? There is not.
Second.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
No.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes. Voted 3-1, you've been approved.
Okay, thank you so much.
Number 7, Attorney Skakidi for 331-333 Pittston Avenue.
Good evening again, members of the Scranton Zoning Hearing Board. I have the pleasure of representing Tom Hoppel, who is the owner of the premises situate at 331, 333 Pittston Avenue in Scranton South Side. It's at the corner of Pittston Avenue and River Street. Some of you who are old as me, or maybe older, will remember that for years it was the old Nebesky Cleaners at that location. I don't think that there was any business at that site, Tom, since the cleaners closed down. I know there was a successor business there that ran a cleaners, but that's been out of there quite some time. Those of you who may have been around for a couple of years may remember Mr. Hoppel. He was here a year and a half or 2 years ago seeking zoning relief to essentially rehabilitate a wonderful property, the 200 block of Arthur Avenue across from the greenhouses at Naog Park. A house that had been foreclosed upon, was in terrible repair, and Mr. Hoppel appeared at that time with the support of all the neighbors and did a marvelous job bringing that building back to the character befitting of the rest of the homes that are around that block. By strange coincidence, he has roots in this part of South Scranton. In fact, he has relatives who live on this very same block. He also fashions himself as a history buff, and he told me something this evening which I was not aware of. If you look at the rendering, you'll notice that he is calling his building the Iron Arts Building. Mr. Hoppel tells me that back in the day when the iron furnaces were up and running in this city, that block of Pittston Avenue, both sides, was constructed essentially for the middle management people who operated the iron furnaces down below the Radisson and the University of Scranton athletic field. So hence the name Iron Arts Building. In furtherance of his efforts to develop that corner, we appeared last month before the Scranton Housing Appeals Board. The property was on the list for demolition. We received approval to take the property off of the demolition list to allow the development to go forward. With us this evening, in addition to Mr. Hoppel, is his architect, Ms. Baccarella, who prepared the rendering for you. So he's not afraid to spend some money. Those of you who had an opportunity to visit the site know the condition of the building. It is essentially one step away from the wrecking ball, and there's a gentleman who's here this evening that wants to develop the building for what I would call neighborhood commercial. Essentially, we're asking for a variance to reestablish a non-conforming use. This is not all going to be done at one time. In fact, the initial proposal is to develop the second floor of the existing building, which is depicted on the architect's rendering, as a yoga studio. We will be developing not greater than 1,000 square feet. If you look at the rendering again, the piece of the property that runs to the east along River Street, there are 4 off-street parking spaces that were there before, as a matter of fact, when the cleaners was there, and we are going to be using 4 off-street spaces for this project. Immediately catty corner from this building is, again, if my history is correct, used to be George's Lunch, and then I think it became a pizza place, and has been unoccupied for quite a few years. So there's a substantial amount of on-street parking, not only for this corner where the proposed project is, but also in the immediate neighborhood. I believe under the ordinance we need a total of 12 spots. Am I right, Mr. Sweeney, for less than for 1,000 square feet?
I'm sorry.
12 parking spaces altogether, 4 off-street for 1,000 square feet. Does that sound right?
I believe so. We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah. So we have the 4. The rest will be on-street. And Mr. Hoppel understands that as this development continues, we're looking at, again, something neighborhood commercial, could be offices, could be a lot of things. He understands he'll have to come back and get additional zoning relief as he continues to develop the building. What he wants to do, and he already has a contractor lined up, he wants to get the building buttoned up, get a roof put on it. There was a favorable response from the immediate neighbors when we appeared before the Housing Appeals Board. I think some of those same people are here this evening. I think the gentleman, again, is prepared to invest his financial resources to take an eyesore and make it into a jewel, and we're asking this board to approve a variance to reestablish the nonconformity.
So what you're looking to do is for the rear portion of the building only right now? Is that what?
No, second floor.
The whole second floor?
No, just the area of the brick area, the front of the building.
So what's the rest of that gonna be then?
We don't know. We're not developing that yet.
But you can't keep coming back for the same 4 parking spots you have. You're already short 8 here, and you only developed maybe, if 20% of this building?
I'm not short any for 1,000 square feet for the yoga studio, which we're going to have on the second floor.
I understand that.
We understand that as the project develops, we may need additional zoning relief, yes, and we may need additional off-street parking. We actually have additional off-street parking available for lease on Ham Court. If you take that left turn from Pittston Avenue.
Right, I was there, I was in Ham Court.
Behind there, you'll see there used to be homes that actually abutted Ham Court that were demolished years ago.
Do you have an agreement?
When we have to, we will have an agreement, yes. But we're not here tonight on anything except the second floor, not more than 1,000 square feet.
And just for clarification,
Sure.
Attorney, we're talking about the main building where basically the shirts were ironed and folded and everything, because that's
Yes.
when that building was. And you're looking at the second floor.
Only the front part.
Right, just the red brick area that I'm looking at
Correct.
here.
Yeah.
And the first floor, you have no plans for at this time?
No plans.
How's your entrance to that second floor? Where are they going to enter into that second floor? Maybe Mr. Hoppel can come up and maybe
Yeah,
he can
Tom, you
answer
want to come
better
up?
if
You
he
want
can
to be
testify.
sworn in? We also have the architect here if we need Martina. Tom,
Please
you wanna
raise
be
your
sworn
right
in?
hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
My name is Thomas Hoppel, 215 Arthur Avenue, Scranton, PA.
Thank you.
So my question, Mr. Hoppel, was, we're only looking at the main building from the cleaners, not where the cleaning was done in the back. I'm very familiar, I grew up right there, so. So if the yoga studio is going on in the main building, second floor, in the red brick area.
I'm sorry, no, that's incorrect. It's actually going to be in the back. There's a big space up on the second floor in the back, in the...
So which building, okay, so now we have 2 different items here.
Sorry about that. If you look at the rendering here, it's the gray area where those windows are.
And that's what I asked him, that's what I missed on, that's why I asked the attorney, and he
Yeah.
told us no.
Sorry about
My
that.
apologies, I misunderstood. So then the entrance then would be the double doors
The
there?
entrance would be the double doors. There'd be a small reception area there and stairs.
That's why I was a little confused there. I seen the double doors. But my question now is going to go to your parking there, your off-street parking. So I take it your off-street parking is going to be facing with that little rendering of a Christmas tree or some kind of pine
Right.
tree is in front of
Right,
the double
exactly.
doors and that. So you're going to block them double doors off with your parking?
Yes.
Are they going to be removed after you're done with your demolition and everything that's going on there? Are them doors going to remain there? Are they going to be closed, like off altogether? Or?
I'm sorry, which double doors?
To the right of your entrance into the gray building.
We left that there because it kind of looks cool. But,
It's not going to be an access if that's...
but it's not.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, if you park cars in front of
We're
it.
going to have cars there,
It
that's right.
might need to be a fire escape, no, can't do that.
It's not going to be a means of egress or regress.
It's not going to be used.
Because that's what I was going to get at. If you're going to use that for emergency exit, you cannot put a car in front of it.
No.
No, definitely not.
Now, that court that runs right next to it, that's an easement court, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
So, your entrance down the line, if you come back before to that parking in the rear will be to Ham Court.
Yes.
We'll get to that 6 months from now when you're...
Yes,
you're up
maybe a
and
year.
running.
And if I can just explain a little bit more, the second floor front would be strictly be for the teachers. That would be their teachers' changing room, yoga teachers.
Okay. And right now, you have no plans for the first floor front where the dry cleaners reception area at the time was, we brought your laundry into it.
I mean, I would defer to you guys on that, but basically, I was hoping that that would eventually be a yoga store. like
Well, I mean,
selling
that's up to you. I'm
yoga
just saying at this
supplies.
time, for tonight's sake, we're only looking at the gray building.
Right,
Correct.
exactly.
We're looking at less than 1,000 square feet. I think it's 950-something, which would be the space for the yoga studio.
I see that place is very run down. Are you gonna freshen up the spot that you're not using too, or are you gonna leave it?
Absolutely. This is, there's plans in the works. I already have, the roof is the major concern, obviously. The roof is open in a couple of spots, and it's a big concern to the neighbors. Tommy's, who's here, actually is very concerned because roof tiles, from the old roof are flying into his backyard. So something has to happen with that roof right away.
And we have a contractor ready to go, providing that we get approval, because obviously Mr. Hoppel's not going to expend his financial resources unless he gets all the required approvals.
I believe it was all boarded up, I'm sorry. I believe it was all boarded up in the front. Are you gonna take care of that also, or?
Yes, absolutely.
It's going to look like this eventually, just what you see here.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time.
But actually, this is not too far off. I mean, if you look at this, the original structure, everything's in place here. What we basically have to do is put in some windows. We're going to clean up the original brick. We're going to, Martina is the architect. Do you want to just?
Let me finish. I
Yeah.
have just a couple more questions.
Sure.
One thing I do appreciate, I seen you shoveling the sidewalks down there.
Oh,
And that doesn't
good.
happen on buildings like this too often, so that was something I did appreciate when I went by there. As we all know, there was chemicals in that building for the longest time, and I'm sure they seeped to the floor and everything. Has all the proper cleanup been done in that building?
That was definitely addressed at the meeting we went to last time, and Patrick Hinton said that has been cleared.
Okay.
Yes.
That was his.
I'm just looking out for the
statement.
safety of the people that are going to be
There
in
are
there,
no
employees,
environmental
everything.
concerns, if
There's
that's the
no
question.
environmental concerns.
I didn't recognize you tonight, Mr. Hoppel, because last time I seen you was in that building, and you're a little cleaner tonight than you
Right,
were working in
exactly.
that building, so. That's all I have this time.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to give testimony on the case?
And I just want to do, before we take a vote, just for clarity's sake again, at this time, we're voting on the rear section.
Second floor.
Just the gray in our
Second
drawing
floor.
here. The second floor,
Not to exceed 1,000 square feet.
not to see, but I mean, we are actually still voting on the first floor of that building for the fact the entranceway is on the first floor.
Right.
And at
So
this
just to-
time, there will be no use of the second floor or the first floor of the red brick building?
The second floor is going to have changing rooms
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right.
for the yoga instructors.
Okay, so on the first floor, the storefront, I'll refer to it as, just for sake
Nothing.
of conversation.
Correct. That's
Nothing will be in
another
there.
day.
Okay. And you're saying you have 4 parking spots, and Jack, for clarification again, for the 1,000 square feet for the studio itself, how many spots again?
12.
12. So we're 8 spots short.
No, four
No,
off-street.
It's one per 250 square feet.
Right, so-
So he's developing 1,000 means he needs 4.
Okay, I thought
So-
somebody
so
said
he
12
has
before.
the
Yes.
four.
That's
No,
the
So you have the 4. That's, I just want, before we
Yeah,
vote, everything's
yes.
clarified of what we have.
The shortage would be if he develops the rest
Go
of the
additional
building.
farther down the road.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
I just have one more question, just so I understand. So this rear portion of this building, is it gonna be all yoga first and second floor? Or are you gonna try to do something else on the first floor
Yes, eventually.
of the
Right.
rear building? You're doing
Right now, it's
something
just going to
on,
be access to the second floor. That's all.
I make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Gattens?
Before I vote, just clarity again, if it's approved tonight, we're just approving the second floor of both buildings for this sake right now for a yoga studio and changing areas.
You're reestablishing the non-conforming use.
Correct.
Limited to.
That's what I'm saying.
1,000
We're limited to
square
the
feet for
1,000 square
development.
feet on the second floor of the front and rear building.
Correct.
And for sake of clarification again, and the entranceway on the first floor to take you to the second floor of that building.
Yes, and just so you know, the entire building is approximately 2,700 square feet.
And before I vote, and just my opinion again, I think it's an excellent project in that neighborhood. That's long overdue there, and if it comes out half of what you have here, it's going to be a good addition. So I'm voting yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes, a vote of 5-0, you've been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 8, Warner Froggy Shelsky,
Let's put a new building right here.
345 East Locust Street.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Warner Shelsky, 345 East Locust Street, Scranton.
You may proceed.
Seeking variance on, I own the property at 345 East Locust Street. I also own the property next door at 347, 349 East Locust Street. They acquired, there was a condemned house, the city ripped it down, bought it through the city and the land bank. I want to put on, the lot was downsized by about a third because of the court. One of the reasons they had to rip everything down was the court was collapsing because of a wall, because the Schimpf court is like 8 foot higher than the 347, 349 property. So they had to put a lot of fill in there to support the court and that concrete wall, those 2x2, 6 foot block stages. But you can see on the diagram that I have there that the lot was downsized by about 1/3. I want to put a garage, hobby workshop on that lot, but city zoning does not allow you to put a separate, like garage or building on a lot if it does not have a residence. So that's the variance I am seeking, to put this building on there without combining the lots, because I want to keep the lots separate.
So when you say hobby, what exactly are you looking to do in there?
Oh, I have 2 hobbies. Motorcycling, antique motorcycles that I've been on motorcycles for 50 years. I'm going to be retiring in a year or 2. And if you look at there's going to be an upstairs in the building, which my other hobby is I collect trains, large-scale trains, which I want to put the trains upstairs so I can play with them the rest of my life. There's not going to be any commercial activity. There's not going to be an apartment upstairs. It's all going to be for myself for when I retire.
So it's not going to be like any kind of business or anything like that?
No kind of business, nothing. It's all, I have enough to do for myself, never mind trying to run a business.
What's the planned exterior for the building?
What's that?
What's the planned exterior? Will it match the neighborhood and the houses,
yes,
vinyl?
It will match. Well, it's going to be the same color as the house.
Okay.
And it will be similar to Electric City Taxi is right across the street. And it's going to be a pole barn type of building with nice siding, and it's going to be very similar in height to the house, to my house. There's nothing, it's basically going to be garage door in front, and as you see in the diagram, the driveway will be between the 2 buildings, between my house and the garage, and just so I can get in the side, stuff like that. And I want to say I've been at the 345 property. It has been in the Warner and Shelsky family for, well, I had it down as 95 years, it's 93 years. My grandfather bought the property in 3 days, February 16th of 1925. Then it was handed down to my mother, and then it was handed down to me. So, been in the city my whole entire life. I've lived at the 345 property for 50 of my 65 years. and I don't plan on going anywhere. I don't have the time. So that's what we want to do. It's all for myself, and the setbacks, like, as you see in the diagram, the setback up the garage is the same as the house. It's 30 feet off the street. Off-shimmed court, it's 16 feet because of the rock fill and everything that's already there. There's no neighbors, there's no parking problem, like in front where there's, I don't even park on the street because I don't have to. The neighbors do, and there's no parking up on top because there's no houses or anything up on top there.
Jack, is there any rules as far as pole barns in residential areas? I know we ran into this before with pole barns.
No, excuse me. No, there isn't, as long as their setbacks are met and other requirements such as height and so on.
Yes, because
I mean, to exceed the height, a certain.
Right. Correct. It would be the same as if it were stick-built.
Because I want to say, as far as pole barns, they're all over the place. There's one down on Hickory Street. There's Billy Jordan has 2 gigantic ones that he put for his towing business, and they're nice. They're not. It's not a pole barn you're going to see like out on a farm. It's going to be a nice, with nice siding and the whole bit. It's just that they're a lot cheaper to build than to go full construction with a regular garage.
Mr. Shelsky, why don't you just combine the lots? You wouldn't even have to be here.
Well, the runaround of combining the lots. Well, number one, it's the cost factor. To combine those 2 lots, just to move that center property line, would cost approximately $4,000. You have to get a surveyor. I talked to a lawyer, I talked to a surveyor, and I talked to the assessment office. It has to be resurveyed. They actually have to survey the lots, which the boundary lines don't change. All you're doing is removing that center lot. It has to go to the planning commission, all this paperwork, and just the surveyor fee is $3,500. And then he writes it all up, and then you have to take it to a lawyer, and that's probably another $300 to $500. So you're talking $4,000 to remove a center property line. And that's my major. I mean, if it was something reasonable, I would not have a problem with that. But it's just that cost factor initially is like, wow. So that's why I don't want to do, and like I said, I'm not going anywhere, and if ever the property would, I don't plan on going anywhere, and if ever the property would be sold, both lots would be sold at the same time, because there would probably be someone who would love to have.
That's the worry.
Yes.
By not combining them, that's the worry.
You just presented, for myself, what Mr. Pinatar is saying. I'm sitting here thinking the same thing. If something changes down the road that, God forbid, some reason you have to come out of that house, now we approved a separate lot with the garage on it, that could be sold separate, that you don't own at that time.
Well, like I said, if anybody had, I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm there probably till I die. And if anybody would buy it, again, they would probably, for whatever reason, if I had to sell it, I would be selling both things. I would say to the person, listen, I would find somebody who wanted to buy both buildings, and somebody would definitely want something like that. Small house, nice garage workshop if you had classic cars, if they had hobbies, whatever.
Dan, is there a way to put a stipulation on that, or no?
You can put a condition of the approval that the lots not be sold separately.
And that's fine. That's fine with me.
I like that.
And just out of curiosity, Dan, with that, so 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, this nice gentleman decides he's going to sell it. Does that show up anywhere that it's called out?
Well, it would be on our records.
Like I said. You know what I'm getting at.
I know what you're getting at, and that's why I asked the initial question.
It's as good as the paper it's written on at that point. That's the only concern I have. I mean, and one of the stipulations I would like to see put into this, that this way Lips could enforce it, as it's strictly not going to turn into an auto repair of any kind into that garage. Like now or 100 years down the road. That'd be the major concern I have with this, is that a month from now,
make it a personal use garage.
Yeah.
Right.
Strictly.
strictly.
And I'd also like to add in there, that I know it might not mean that much, but I'd like to at least have it in there that the properties be sold together.
Is one.
That's fine.
Anybody else here?
Anybody else here to give testimony on the case? There's not?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
This with the two conditions.
With
Yes.
two conditions.
Could you repeat the conditions, Dan, so we know we're...
The conditions are that the garage be strictly used for personal use and that the properties be sold together, not separately sold.
I make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Gadden?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes. Vote of 5-0, you've been approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you, Froggy. Case number 9, 625, 627 Pittston Avenue.
This is 11 on my page. 9 was Boulevard Avenue.
I'm sorry, I was speeding.
Our packet was
Because, yeah,
misnumbered,
because
Jack.
of the continuances, I was not counting those. But this is 625, 627 Pittston Avenue.
You please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Mariano Estevez, 35 Elmhurst Boulevard, Scranton, PA.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I just want to thank you for all of you taking the time to discuss my case for a permit. The reason that I'm here today is to see if you can review and approve to introduce a restaurant to the community, which will be located in 625 Pittston Avenue in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The dimensions on the building is 32 feet by 40 feet. I purchased this property about 3 years ago, and I used it as an office space for the time being. There are multiple reasons as to why I wanted to turn this property into a restaurant. The main one being because I have is that there's much potential with this property. Another reason will be that winters are kind of difficult for me as I'm a landscaper, and that is only seasonal work. I have a large family and seasonal job is not providing adequate funds. Finally, I strongly believe that it will be a great asset to the community by providing it with the fresh, authentic food and expand it to the culture of the city of Scranton. Thank you very much.
I have a couple questions looking at your diagram,
Sure,
or one of your diagrams.
sure,
And we'll compliment you, you did put a nice package together.
oh, sure.
Parking in the front of the building, are you counting that as your parking?
No,
No?
no. What, this is the, I know we have a little concern about the parking in front, and the other thing I can do, I can eliminate the parking in front and just have 2 parks in front of the building instead of like having 3 pulling in into the parking in front. Is that going to be better than what I usually have the plan? Park at 3 in the front. So we
Right,
can
I'm
eliminate
just
the-
saying, what your diagram here is, it's an illegal parking lot.
It's legal
I mean,
parking,
and
right, yes.
We had discussed that and everything.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
parking that we can't even consider tonight. Okay?
Correct, yeah. So that's why I wanted to just eliminate and just do something else there and maybe a walkway towards the building.
I mean, just, and Mr. Sweeney can clarify this, this is something that if you want to push it to get a parking, Jack, if I'm not mistaken, you'd have to seek a permit from PennDOT first?
That is correct. You'll need a permit for the entrance and exit onto the state highway.
Okay.
And that would be through
All right,
PennDOT.
yeah, not a problem.
So, in the time being, are you planning to block that off?
Yes, definitely, just eliminate that, the parking in front.
Bob, I had a discussion with him over there, and he was gonna put the cement dividers so that nobody could even pull in there. This way here, he'll pick up, he had 3 spots there. By eliminating them, he'll be able to put 2 cars on Pittston Avenue.
Right, I mean, but we can't, as you know, Bob, we can't even look at them spots on Pittston Avenue as his parking.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, that-
No,
Right.
my concern right now, and I discussed it with this gentleman, he's a nice gentleman.
Yes, yes.
I have concern with that, when the bakery is busy and everything, the cars that are using that right now back right out. And many a
That's
times
true.
coming down that street, including
That's correct.
today,
You're right,
I was
yes.
almost hit. So, to me, that's more of a safety concern than anything. The faster you block that off, you can eliminate
Right,
that.
that's the best thing to do, I think.
I know it has nothing to do
For
with
me,
your
for my
variance here
safety too.
tonight, but,
Right.
okay. How many square feet is this?
The property is
The building that you're inside that you're
the
gonna
building
use?
inside is at 32 by 40.
It
It's a
appears...
small place, but it's nice.
Yeah, it appears from his one picture with the tables and
there you go.
chairs that there would be adequate seating for 28 to 30 people. The requirement is 1 per every 4 seats and 2 for employees. So at 28 seats, he would need 7 plus 2 or 9 off-street parking spots.
Nice street parking.
He's
And
got 6 in the rear.
6 in the rear. There's also, on the side of the garage, I can use 2 parkings there, I believe so. It's, the width of the building is 40 and it's 8 feet wide. Maybe I can pull in 2 cars right there. Right to the side.
What garage you're showing me there?
Right here.
You won't have the clearance, it needs a minimum of 9 feet for a parking spot, yeah.
At 9 by 8.
So that'd be out of there, yeah. He wouldn't have the clearance and setbacks from the building next to him either, from the bike store next to
I
him.
have 4 feet.
Okay, so, the other thing, I was looking at, there's maybe it's a place right across the street from my place, and maybe I can purchase in the future, but that's not right now. I don't know, like, maybe that's gonna be in the future.
The parking lot in the rear, Jack, where they're gonna back out onto the court there, Hamp Court, is that acceptable for us to approve for backing into a court?
Well, it's not ideal, obviously.
Because I'm looking at, right next to it, to the right of this picture from the rear, we're showing the parking lined out and everything, and right next to that is already a parking lot for the bakery, and I'm concerned about
Right.
the congestion it's gonna cause in that alley. It's not a wide alley, it's, barely minimum probably when they installed that court going throughout Southside.
I think they use that for, just for employees, and I
Well,
don't see anybody.
it does get used in the busy season,
Right,
around the holidays and stuff
then-
like that. So there's more spots than needed
Right.
for employees there. Because actually, their employees are parking in your front spot.
That's right.
That's right.
That's why I want to eliminate that. 'Cause that's very,
So I just have concern about the safety of the parking that's there.
Was this a restaurant prior to you purchasing this? It looks like it's set up for a restaurant already.
I was in an office. I make, touch it up here and there, just make it
You
look like.
used it for an office, but prior to you...
Right, for you, yes.
Prior to you, wasn't
Well,
it,
yes,
it was a
yes.
restaurant, I think,
No.
prior to you. Way back?
Way back, no.
No.
No,
It wasn't?
It was,
No, I don't think so, no.
Cook
I
Coffee
purchased it
had that. It was an
Okay.
office for them for sales and stuff like that.
Okay.
3 years ago, yeah.
That's going back 55 years, Stan, so.
You got me on that one.
Beyond that.
So Jack, was all this work done through the city,
Well, once we get through this, that's the next thing we have to go over. Not necessarily with the board, but with our office, as to what work was done. And I did a little bit of research. I can't find any permits, so we'd have to go through, there's a lot of things that we will have to
Sure, yeah, because
meet on.
whatever I purchased was already there. What I did, touch it up, with the
Well,
spackle
again,
and-
we'll have to decide.
Sure, yeah.
We'll have to get together, is what I'm trying to say, but I can't,
Just want to make sure we have everything up to a code and, everything.
Can I-
It's going to work,
On that subject,
I'm not, well, I'm just gonna finish, because if depending on what happens at this level, the next step would be his CO. And that's where a lot of this stuff would be addressed, as far as permits, as far as inspections.
Right, yes.
On all of that. So, obviously, that will be addressed.
I just hoping they do get around to changing our book. That's one of the things that's addressed, because I have a problem voting on a property, and not just necessarily this one, anyone that comes before us where the work wasn't done properly, and we're approving something then.
No, well, again, nothing will happen as far as approval or opening this business until they go through
Yeah, they
the
can't-
certificate of
I mean,
occupancy.
I just...
They can't get the CO until they get.
Right, I
those
just
steps.
don't understand why people put the cart before the horse, and sometimes on these projects here.
Yeah, well, like I said, nothing would happen as far as this particular restaurant is until they go through the CO process. And again, a lot of the things that we're worried about will be addressed.
Correct, yeah.
As far as the parking lot, it's not ideal by any means. The only thing that does come to his advantage is it is an alley, which is posted 15 miles an hour. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to see the project held up for that, but it certainly leaves a lot to be desired.
And you said down the road you may purchase a piece of property behind?
Right behind, yes,
Right.
behind, definitely. There's one behind, and there's one across the street from that. There's a lot of room for cars, definitely, to park there, so.
Right.
That's the, what I'm looking.
Are you gonna look at doing that sometime soon?
Hopefully, yeah, depends on, how you guys decide and everything, hopefully soon.
I'd be more comfortable with the contingency on this, that this parking is secured prior to it.
I don't believe that's what he was looking for, right? You're looking to get approved as
Right.
it stands?
Right, yeah,
And
and
with
see-
the
move on
hope
out
of
and
maybe
see-
getting some more
Some
parking?
additional
To see-
parking.
Right, to get it going,
If
just
he gets
to-
busy enough.
Right.
Correct.
Right, who knows, right, exactly, it all depends.
Anybody here to give testimony on the case? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Tom Welby, 119 Park Drive in Scranton. I work for State Representative Marty Flynn. We had some expressions of concern from some constituents regarding what appeared to be a parking lot there on Pittston Avenue in the front of the building, and concerns from the constituents of the safety of backing out onto Pittston Avenue. Since it is a state road, we went ahead, being the state office, and called PennDOT and talked with them about it, and they said they could come to the city and come to an agreement and reach an agreement on establishing that as a parking lot. But in doing so, they would have to give up 65 feet on either side of that property for no parking on the street in that area. I spoke to one of the businesses there, and they would not agree to that. And PennDOT said that they would likely require an 8-inch curb in the front there in that area. But the one business adjacent to this location seemed receptive to the idea of this restaurant opening there, and was kind of looking forward. My impression was that they were looking forward to working together with this restaurant and creating a nice little atmosphere. And one of the conversations even got to where that front area that is now being used for parking perhaps could be a little cafe area where one could grab their lunch or whatever from the restaurant, and perhaps get a pastry from the bakery next door and work together with it. And perhaps, I don't know if he's approached the bakery yet, but they do have on the side, they have additional parking on the side of their bakery. Perhaps something can be worked out where he can take a couple of spots and work with them, or perhaps pay rent for those couple of spaces in the back. But the state did indicate that if that is established as a parking lot, 65 feet on either side of it on that street on Pittston Avenue would be no parking, and that might be a problem. But
Actually, they told me 75 feet.
Well, we already addressed that.
Yeah.
There's not going to be no parking in front of that place.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to use those spots.
Them 3 spots, they will not, he's going to put the cement curbing in front of it so nobody tries to pull in there.
Well, it would likely have to be an 8-inch curb as well.
They're 8 inches tall.
The curb would have to be installed.
Bob, what he's saying is the state requires a fixed curb in front of it to repair that curb that was taken out.
Well,
Well, if
are
he's
you
not
all
gonna
right
u-
with that, putting that new curb in there?
Well, if he's not going to use it for parking, I don't think PennDOT would require that.
Yeah.
Right.
Since he
I
said
mean-
he's not going to use it for parking.
But his plan is, if I'm correct when I asked before, your plan is to, as soon as possible, to block that off.
Right.
Because when you're not there,
People will
park
pull
there.
in, yeah, you're right.
So,
That's what happened. Like they pull in there.
yeah.
You know, so I definitely have to do something to block it off, so people don't go in there.
Yeah,
For my safety too, you know.
yeah, obviously, there's a lot of areas that are a problem in that general area of Pittston Avenue. You're all aware of it. Down on Orchard Street, there's accidents there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous area, and with all due respect, from the state's perspective, the state will require their own safety enhancements and what is necessary and what is not necessary for that area. But the point being here that I think this might be a really nice addition to the neighborhood, and working together with the adjacent businesses could be a win-win for everybody.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to give testimony? You raise your, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Kathleen Madsen, 102 Watchers Drive, Scranton, PA.
Thank you.
I just also want to comment on Tom's comments, and I do think a business like this would be beneficial there. I know parking is always a problem. I'm always up here talking to you folks about it. The alley parking is a good compromise, and not having it on the street is also a good compromise. So I just hope that you would consider that, and hopefully you two would work with your both businesses and try and get everything working well there, because Pittston Avenue could use a little sprucing up in that area too.
Kathleen, just for the record, we know who you are, but just so we have it on record, how you're representing the neighborhood association.
Oh, yes, I am Vice President of the South Scranton Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Do we have to put anything in there about the front parking or?
We could put in there that there be no parking in the front of the building.
If we can do that, please.
Yes.
Can we also add that these bumper blocks are going to be installed?
We can put in, however you want to describe them, yeah.
Well, I think that's what they're called, but we might have more than that. If contingent, like Sean said, of the no parking in front and parking bumper blocks installed across the length of that at the curb line to impede parking from coming into that area.
You could probably, what'd you say the lot is wide?
It's 40 feet.
40, so
40
if
feet.
they're 6 feet, probably 4 of them.
4, just to
As
be
long
safe,
as you
right.
stagger them out, right?
People maybe don't try and
Yeah.
sneak. Yeah.
But as I said before, it's not you I'm concerned with, is when you're not there. I mean,
Definitely,
and
yeah.
Sandy has a great business there, and,
Thank you.
so, as long as we have the
So them
contingencies.
2 stipulations.
Correct.
Dan, can you read them back to me, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, the contingency would be contingent on there be no parking in the front of the building, and he is to install some type of blockage to eliminate access to those parking spots.
Do we have to clarify, and I'm not trying to be a pain, do we have to clarify in front of the building to mean the off-street parking in the front? That land in the front?
Well, we said no parking in the front of the building.
I just want to make sure we're not.
Okay, off-street parking, okay.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to,
Gotcha.
right down the road, somebody looks at it and says, well, they're talking about the street.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Was there a motion made?
I'm
or-
sorry, do we have a second?
Is there a second?
I mentioned, I think Bob seconded it as well.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes, vote of 5 to
Thank you
0,
very
you've been
much.
approved. Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Paul Martinez, 618 Wheeler Avenue.
10. We got 10.
Don't go by the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers are a little disjointed this month due to continuances and late arrivals and
Will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sí.
Name and address for the both of you, please.
My name is Raúl Alexander Medina Martinez. My address is...
Please speak into the microphone because we can't hear you.
My name is Raúl Medina Martinez. The address is 6618 Wheeler Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
My name is Adela Artley, 1305 Preston Place, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. You may proceed.
obviously Medela will be his translator.
You're the translator. You don't have an interest in the property, right? You're just the translator?
No, just a translator.
Thank you.
Can you pull that mic just down a little bit so we pick up on you?
No, I don't have no interest in the property, just a translator.
Thank you.
Sí, yo estoy viviendo en la primera planta y
I am living in the first floor of the property.
la segunda planta, el segundo apartamento se encuentra con condena y
The second floor of the property is actually condemned.
yo quiero vivir en la segunda planta y poder rentar la primera planta.
I would like to live in the second floor and be able to rent the first floor. That's what I'm here today, to be able to live in the second floor and rent the first floor, as I'm currently living in the first floor.
Did you say the second floor is condemned and the first floor is not?
That is correct.
Yes.
Is that common?
No.
Okay.
But we do, it is, well, I shouldn't say that. We do get a lot of it where one half, for example, of a double would be condemned. And in this case, it's a double, but it's an up and down. And it's been vacant for quite a while, besides the condemnation.
So it reverted back to a single, Jack?
Correct.
Why we're here?
Because it's an up and down, not a side by side.
Yeah, it's technically not a double, it's a up and down rental.
Right.
Right,
If
correct.
I remember correctly, is there a garage out the rear of the property?
3-car, right?
Si no me recuerdo correctamente, hay un garaje al lado de la propiedad.
Sí, tengo un garaje.
Yes, I have a garage.
What is the plans for the parking for the tenants?
¿Cuáles son los planes del parqueo con los tenes?
Sí, puedo parquear yo. Puedo, a la persona que renta puedo darle el garaje y yo puedo parcar en la calle.
The person that will be renting an apartment, if I get a tenant, can rent in the garage, could park in a garage, and I could park in the streetway.
No.
You need 3 parking.
You need 3
Yeah.
that's a 3-car garage, correct?
Oh, is
Yes,
it?
I
Yeah.
have 3 spaces.
Okay, good, okay. So to be clear, is it a 3-car garage?
Para
Yes.
estar claro, ¿es un garaje de 3 carros?
Sí.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
When do you plan on renovating that second floor to bring it out of condemnation?
¿Cuándo piensa renovar el segundo piso para sacarlo de condonación?
Ahora mismo, en segundo piso, y ahora mismo ya quiero.
Right now, as soon as the board is ready.
I will note that he has filled out his applications, posted the bond, and is ready to go. And this pretty much came up when he started to pull permits, and we realized that he had to come here first.
Good.
So he is ready to go.
I see there's nobody in the audience that wants to give testimony, so
Vemos que no hay nadie en la audiencia que quiera dar testimonio.
Second.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
yes, a vote of 5 to 0, you've been approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just want to say before we close out,
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for
Thank
your efforts, Mrs. Patel. I understand that you will be leaving us after tonight, but on behalf of myself and the board, we want to thank you for your time and good work.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Be happy today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you at the office for your permits.
Meeting adjourned.